being alone. Yeah, I'm pretty used to being alone as well, unfortunately. But you know, I'm trying my best not to keep myself alone because a lot of my problems like manifest when I'm alone because I have a terrible, I guess, mental habit of shit talking myself when I'm alone. Yeah, I've been suffering pretty horrendously. I'm really sorry to hear that, Ghouls. Like, I hate that that's happening to you. I completely understand. I've been suffering from depression since I was 7. My mum is schizophrenic and she has psychosis, and she's also, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure my mum is also, I'm pretty sure she has undiagnosed BPD, but not sure about that one because she stopped taking her medication and she got really, really bad. And so, you know, my mum kept thinking that, you know, people were out to get her, and that's why she stopped taking her medication. And obviously, since she stopped taking her medication, it just spiraled downhill. So I didn't really grow up with a mother, and my dad worked overseas, and so I didn't have a dad either. So ever since I was a kid, it was mainly, I guess, my sister looking after me. And I guess in a way, my sister, I feel like maybe she resented having to look after me. So basically, my sister used to make fun of me all the time. My mom would, you know, tell me that she hated me, and then sometimes swing around saying that, you know, she doesn't hate me, and then sometimes she'd be like, oh, I never wanted you or your sister, you know, stuff like that. And that's been happening since I was 7. And then there was stuff like my sister's teasing, then I was bullied in primary school, and then having to deal with that without anyone to talk to because I didn't have any friends, and having to deal with the fact that my mum wasn't there for me, my sister wasn't there for me, I had no friends, I had no dad to talk to, I didn't have anyone, and it just slowly got really bad. And then my parents, whenever they were actually home together, they would argue, and then I think it was like one year when I was in like 5th grade, my mum got really, really bad, and we was gonna send her back to China to see a doctor there so she could actually communicate properly. And then what happened was my mum actually exchanged her ticket to China to Paris, and she got lost in Paris, lost all her belongings, and then she was taken to like one of those like, I don't know if they're like, if the word I'm looking for is emissary, but she was like taken to one of those buildings, and because she's not well, she thought that she was trapped and somebody was like, you know, holding her hostage, and she jumped out of the 3rd story of a building. And ultimately what happened after then, she was hospitalized for quite a long time. She was placed in the psychiatric ward. My dad had to stop working to look after me because obviously my sister was still underage and wasn't able to look after me, and my mum was in hospital, so my dad had to look after me. And so since my dad was the only one earning income, because he stopped working, our money pool ended, and because my parents chose to send both my sister and I to private schools, money kind of dwindled. And obviously, you know, the cost of my mum's medical fees, the cost my dad had to pay to get to Paris to find her, you know, all basically we ended up with money issues. After that, my dad and my mum divorced while I was in year 5. My dad asked my school to help me out with school fees, and my school agreed and complied. And then what happened was, because my school understood my situations, they started forcing me into counseling. It was involuntary counseling. It was really, really, really rough. I didn't like the counselor either. And then some of the other girls, I went to a private all-girls school, by the way. That's a pretty crucial fact. And some of the girls, their parents actually work for the school. And so news spread to, you know, these girls' parents. And then obviously their parents told their daughters, and the bullying got a lot worse. And so essentially what happened was I was known as the kid with, like, you know, the crazy mum. And, you know, it was a pretty stressful time, and, like, you know, having to deal with my mum being in hospital, all that stuff, it was really rough. And obviously, you know, I knew that my parents were arguing. A lot of the time my parents were arguing was because of me. And in a way, it felt like my parents got divorced because of me. And so, you know, there's all that stuff. And, you know, I was never good enough for my mom. I wasn't smart enough. 98% weren't good enough. It didn't matter if I was, like, ahead of everyone. I was an advanced reader. Didn't matter. I also did extracurricular. I did this thing called QMON, which is, like, extra schooling. On weekends, I did well in that. Didn't matter. I played chess. I was also in chess competitions. Didn't matter how good I was. I just wasn't good enough. I was too fat, too skinny, all this, yada, yada, yada. And then it's just like no one respected me. No one liked me. No one praised me. I just only got told that I was shit. You know, as I got older, shit only went downhill. I guess one of the things that happened was, like, after my mum got out of being hospitalized and she started taking medication, but then eventually, you know, something happened and she got hit by a car. Honestly, it was my mum's fault. She got hit by a car and she was hospitalized once again. And my parents were divorced, and so, you know, my dad didn't have any obligations to come home anymore, and my dad didn't want to deal with my mum either. I had to live with my sister. And living with my sister and her husband, or except they weren't married just yet, was an experience for me. I didn't go out of my room, like, ever, and I didn't really go out and hang with friends. I didn't really do anything other than stay at home, play games, you know, or, like, avoid the world. And so, you know, they thought there was something wrong with me, and, you know, I was just lazy. The way they treated me was different, and, like, I mean, I didn't care that they treated me differently, but it's more of that they didn't try to understand me. Their methods were not really helping me, and, like, I've tried to make them understand, but they're the kind of people who, like, misunderstand you and twist your words, and they think that you're, like, trying to say that I, like, they thought that I was, like, ungrateful. All I'm trying to say is, this isn't the way to help me. Everybody's different. Everybody needs a different kind of help. And they took that as, our help's not good enough, and that I'm an ungrateful bitch. And then I guess my trust in people dropped even further after being betrayed by other people. And then, you know, I was trying to balance out my depression while also balancing out the fact that I had to wake up at like 5:30 to get to school on time. And then also having to balance out the fact that my mom back then wanted me to visit her in the hospital. And so I'd finish school at like 3:30, go to the hospital, which would take me some time to get there. I'd stay there until like 6:30. I'd get home at around maybe like 8:30, 9, and then I'd have to obviously feed myself, and then it's like 10 p.m. and then I have to study, and then I have to get up at 5:30 again. And it's just like, how am I meant to handle all that shit? And obviously I had chronic insomnia, so I basically wasn't sleeping, and I had no time to do anything. And I hated school because I hated everything. And it was just like, oh, fucking nightmare. Absolute fucking nightmare. And I'm just like how am I meant to manage, you know? And like that's like only the portion of my life pre my dad's remarriage and me living under the same roof as my mentally ill mother with my dad and his wife. Oh my fucking god, that's like a whole shit fest in itself. Calling the cops all the fucking time, getting fucking physically abused. My dad's being fucking physically abused, and my dad accidentally retaliated one time, and then she instantly started crying and blaming my dad, saying that my dad attacked her first. And oh my god, I've never experienced... My dad cannot pick women. My dad cannot pick women at all. My dad picks the crazy bitches. Like, his new wife physically abusing him. She's crashed his car 3 times. She's physically assaulted me. She's physically assaulted my sister's husband. He had to get stitches. They had to go to court over it. add in my 3 different 3-year-long relationships. Oh! Oh! And then friendships. I hate, like, honestly, most days I hate life. I hate life, and I'm tired of it. Ah! Sorry about my mini rant. I kind of ended up like a machine gun. It was just like spitting out all these things. Head pat myself IRL.